When you're 4 years into a game like Smash Ultimate, you get a pretty good sense of the meta. You know which characters are threats, and you know which characters aren't. But every now and again, there's a tournament that reminds you to never take any opponent lightly. Especially when that opponent is a Grappler. Today, we dive into the chaos Skyjay's Incineroar rained down upon Collision 2023's Ultimate Bracket.
Oh no! Oh, we take those! My God!
Nothing about Collision 2023's Ultimate Bracket went as planned. The top 4 seeds, MK Leo, Spargo, Tweak, and Light, were all in losers bracket before top 8, and Leo and Light were sent packing before finals. But despite all this madness, the character pool in top 8 was shockingly normal. Of the 10 characters that won games in top 8, 7 were in the S tier of the newly released official Ultimate tier list, including the Kazuya Riddles used to tear through most of the bracket on his way to his second major win and his first since Big House 10. Same goes for Spargo's Cloud and Aegis, Meister's Game & Watch, Sonic's Sonics, Tweak's Diddy Kong, and Shiny Mark's Pikachu. Then there was one A tier, the Terry that Riddles used to dig deep and reverse 3-0 Sonics in winter semis, and one B tier, the Bayonetta Lima piloted so expertly into top 8 before a few contractually obligated Bayo self-destructs pushed him towards a 5th place exit. And then there was one very angry cat. To call this a breakout event would be disrespectful to the work that Skyjay has put in throughout his career, particularly in the year and a half since Majors returned from lockdown with Riptide in fall 2021. It's also tempting to make a joke about Incineroar's inconsistency given Skyjay's 97th place finish at Genesis 9 back in January, but before that, Skyjay was possibly the single most consistent mid-tier threat in the game. From Glitch 8.5 in September 2021 through the Big House 10 in October 2022, Skyjay attended 13 offline tournaments with at least 400 players. 13 times, he finished between 9th at Lost Tech City and Smash Factor 9 and 33rd. And he was picking up huge wins in matchups he wasn't supposed to win. Base Mage at Lost Tech City, Bloom Forever at Ultimate Wanted 4, Cola at Super Smash Con 2022, MVD at Genesis 8, Ned and Jackal at Main Stage 2021, and Myron at Port Priority 6, just to name a few. With that consistency, it was no surprise that Skyjay didn't drop a single game in 4 sets en route to his date with Debuzz in round 1 of Top 64. Debuzz is exactly the kind of player who should shut down the kind of explosive playstyle Skyjay brings to the table. And in fact, he had shut it down before, ending Skyjay's winner's run at Smash Factor 9 in a 3-1 set. It takes 2 things to get around a Grappler: patience and clean play, and few people are known for combining the two better than Debuzz. If you have a weakness, Debuzz will expose it. And he did, edgeguarding Incineroar at absurdly early percents multiple times throughout the first 2 games. But then, Skyjay's recoveries got just a little bit better, and he started living longer. Sometimes this just meant it took one extra neutral break for Debuzz to take his stock, but the last thing you want to do is give a Grappler an extra chance. It may have been Top 64 winners round 1, but this was the turning point of the entire tournament. Debuzz had this set on lock. He had a 100% lead on Rosalina and Luma. And then, he got grabbed in the corner. Debuzz still had a chance to close the set, and he pushed Skyjay to his final stock once again in Game 4, but Skyjay clutched up again, taking Debuzz's final stock with 112% damage on himself. One man can only take so much, and the walls finally broke in Game 5 with Skyjay running away with a 2-stock victory. It's a true shame that Skyjay's next set was played off stream and thus lost to time. If Debuzz wasn't the player best positioned to end Skyjay's run, surely it would be his next opponent, Meister, whose Game & Watch is the definition of no fun allowed. Not only is it a matchup that feels awful in theory, it had been awful in practice as well. Meister won their first offline sets prior to January 15th's The True Beginning Reborn, an 87-player event held in Puebla, Mexico. Skyjay finally got on the board there with a 3-2 victory, only to get reset and eliminated by Meister in Grands, putting the lifetime set count at 1-7. Well, now it's 2-7. Wish we could tell you how that happened, but so it goes. That win set up a matchup with another one of Skyjay's countrymen, Spargo. The pair hadn't played in nearly a year since Genesis 8, but the history was pretty clear. A 4-0 set count in Spargo's favor, including a 12-3 game count. Just like the Debuzz set, it started out with Spargo showing exactly why Incineroar was 64th on the first tier list. Spargo abused Incineroar's recovery and put together one of the quickest Game 1s of the entire tournament. Against Debuzz, Skyjay's comeback was defined by survivability. He lived past 100% on all but one of the 7 full stocks he played in the final 3 games of that set. It was the same story against Spargo. After dropping Game 1 to the kind of electric 0 to death that shows why Spargo is a contender for the best player in the world, it was the exact same story. Skyjay dropped just 1 stock sub 100% against Spargo over the next 3 games. And once again, he clutched up. All 3 games went to the final stock, with Skyjay winning with over 100% on his own final stock twice. This was already enough to deem Skyjay's run historic, making him the first Incineroar to top 8 a Super Major and giving him a win over the number 2 player in the world. But he wasn't done. Yeah, he got some help from Lima in Winter Semis, who SD'd a couple times. Still, give Skyjay his credit. Against one of the best edgeguarders in the world, he held 6 stocks beyond 130% in this set. This forced Lima to grind out terrifying neutral exchange after neutral exchange against a character that could kill with a command grab at 65% at the ledge. And did. In every one of these sets, you can point to a single play that swung the momentum in Skyjay's favor. That's part of what makes Incineroar's archetype, the Grappler, so hard to deal with. It can feel like you've won an entire game or even an entire set, winning interaction after interaction, but then they find that one opening that changes everything. The snowball grows, and soon it's unstoppable. It often doesn't work in Smash because the Grappler's advantage in typical fighters, a larger health bar, doesn't get realized. Smash's heavies get juggled and edgeguarded and just don't actually get to turn their weight into the survivability that the developers probably intended it to be. This is the fate Incineroar usually suffers as well, but Skyjay has the defense and recovery mix-ups to give him 1 or 2 more chances per stock that other Incineroar players don't get. And that can be all he needs.
Fails must SD at least once a set.
That was not an SD. Skyjay took that.
We will pretend. Yeah, you're right.
No!
Right now, he...
The 112 as well to cap it all off.
It was probably too much to expect Skyjay to get past Riddles and his Kazuya. Not only is Kazuya an S-tier character with the most busted neutral tool in the game and an absurd punish game, he also threatens a lot of the same mentality checks that Incineroar does. Oh, you won neutral for a minute straight, but you let me hit you once? Whoops, guess you'll die. It was easy to assume Spargo would wipe the floor with Skyjay in the run back. There was the prior history, sure, but there was also the absolute warpath Spargo went on as soon as Skyjay sent him into losers. He dispatched Apollo Kage, Tweak, Sonics, and Meister on his way back to Skyjay in losers finals, all while dropping just 2 combined games. One of the biggest tools in the Grappler's toolbox, though, is entirely in his opponent's head. Get hit by characters like Incineroar often enough, and you start to doubt everything. Your choices, your input, what you eat for breakfast, your character's own tools. Did Spargo play sloppy in losers finals against Skyjay? Absolutely. But Skyjay did that. Skyjay put the fear of God in him, just as he did to so many players throughout the bracket. And when he found 2 early kills en route to a 2-stock victory in Game 1, the seed that was planted in winner's quarters truly sprouted. Once again, in losers finals, the survivability from Skyjay was absurd. He died sub 100% just once out of the 9 full stocks he played, and once again, he clutched, winning 2 last stock games, including a terrifying Game 2 where Spargo had multiple chances to seal the game off stage. Who knows how this tournament goes if Spargo could have stopped Skyjay's momentum here, but instead Skyjay cleaned up in a Game 4 where he lived to 170 twice on his way to victory. In his 4 combined set wins over Debuzz, Lima, and Spargo, Skyjay won 9 games that went down to the last stock, including 7 where he was over 80% on his last stock and 5 where he was over 100%. As he got deeper and deeper into bracket, he somehow got even harder to kill. Opponent's final opening on Skyjay came at 118.7% on average, an absurdly high number for a character at risk of death every time he's pushed off stage. Of the 48 stocks Skyjay played in these 4 sets, including the ones that didn't finish because he won the game, Skyjay survived to 100% in 32 of them, and even 2/3. As much as his explosiveness and highlight Alolan whip reads will be what everyone remembers, the thing that sets him apart is his incredible ability to keep this lumbering menace alive to get those chances to swing. Skyjay made some stunningly good adjustments against Riddles and forced a Game 5 in the reset, but in the end, the Kazuya was simply too strong. Still, Skyjay undeniably made history with his run at Collision 2023, one of the greatest bracket runs you'll ever see from one of Ultimate's many terrifying mid-tiers, beating not just some of Incineroar's toughest matchups, but multiple players who had established themselves as Skyjay's bracket demons. It's a truly inspiring story for Ultimate players, many of whom have been struggling through the meta presented by Fighters Pass 2. So hey, does this mean that the tier lists have finally been toppled and you can win by playing whoever you want? Fuck no, dude, not at all. And Karen, you were wrong about Pokemon too. Incineroar's second place at an S tier isn't proof that the character is underrated. It was the result of Skyjay's crazy skill, a couple of lucky breaks, and maybe the single clutchest tournament run we've ever seen when it comes to closing out last stock scenarios. But it was a great reminder that even in the days of the iron rule of Fighters Pass 2, even 4 years from release and roughly a year from its final patch, Ultimate can still surprise us. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Big thanks to Jackie Peanuts for writing, Asdro for editing, and I hope you enjoyed the beginning of the PG Stats gang coming back together. Please let us know what you think of the content, and consider supporting my Patreon to help us make even more of this stuff. With your pledge, you'll get access to a ton of behind-the-scenes content, and at 100 patrons, you get to decide on what our next video will be. Speaking of, thank you to our top tier patrons and YouTube members, Anthony Rossi, Avishua Stein, Dorian, Eric is Cool, NNG Esports, Storm, Storm814 SSB, and Tingly Jungle for supporting the channel. And since you're still here, you should check out some other sweet breakdowns on the Melee side of things while you wait for our next banger, so click on this video and see you there.